developing and applying Foley sound recording techniques to understand and convey emotion. Recording dialogue on set is an important component of creating a story that develops emotion. However, to complete a soundscape, you have to master the use of wild tracks and Foley to effectively create the desired atmosphere of a piece. The majority of extra sounds you hear on screen are not actually recorded at the same time as the camera is operated on set. This is largely down to the fact that through processes of Foley, you can generate a better quality of sound compared to recording everything on set. Some of the earliest but most effective uses of Foley came through the pioneer filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. Here's a clip from the film Spartacus. In the culminating battle scene, the sound effects recorded had not produced the desired effect. Kubrick had to find a way to create the sound of armour, mixed with the music, to complete the soundscape of war. Amazingly, they recorded a collection of keys together, which when mixed in, filled the sound effect of the armour perfectly. In contemporary cinema, Barry Jenkins' Moonlight has hugely inspired me for my own future projects. His harsh, unsettling soundscapes are amplified by striking uses of Foley. My own skills in Foley are limited, but through the completion of this project, I feel as though I have a wider knowledge in sound design as a whole now. To highlight the benefit and importance of Foley, I've recorded 3 short scenes where no sound has been recorded at all. Through different methods of Foley and wild track, I aim to completely manufacture a soundscape from scratch. The biggest problems that I've encountered while making the scenes is making them sound natural. It's an interesting experiment either way, as you can see how far you can go with just Foley and wild track alone. In my setup, I wanted to use the bare bones and create it in the simplest way possible. I made sure my room was as quiet as possible, but I wanted to record sound in the living area to match the acoustics and locations of my short scenes. Using a shotgun mic, a stand, a Tascam for mixing, and many different items to make sounds, I had my basic setup. I formed a large database of sounds, mainly with household items, food, and various other objects. Some I used, some I didn't. I had to create a range of different sounds, trying to use a layered effect to my scenes. So, let's take a look at the methods I used. Here, I use keys. Keys are a really versatile tool, as seen with Spartacus. In this case, I use them to recreate the sound of broken glass underfoot. Celery is well known and well used in the film industry as a component of Foley. I wanted to utilise its qualities in making loud, cracking sounds and doing something with that. One of my scenes takes place on a golf course. After playing around with various ways of making the sound of a ball going into a hole, I found that simply using a golf ball and a medium-sized cup was the most appropriate. Also, using a golf club and hitting it with a golf ball at different amounts of power with my hand worked all the same way in recreating the strike of a golf ball. I took inspiration for a golf scene from Happy Gilmore. Even though it's by no means a classic film, the high quality of Foley used helps to put you into the location and feel immersed in the action. One of my scenes needed a gunshot sound effect, and this proved the hardest throughout the project. I experimented with hitting a beanbag at first, but it just wasn't giving me what I needed. I experimented with my own voice to create the gunshot sound effect. I found this to be the best of what I had really. When adding on some reverb and bass, it sounded a lot more authentic than the beanbag. For another scene, I needed to match up sounds of the kettle and the stirring of coffee. This was the most straightforward of my Foley methods. Simply, I'm trying to make it as naturally sounding as I can. I needed some windy atmos to match the feeling of the golf course. So at the windiest time of the day, I hung around by the tree, breaking branches and shaking the tree to try and layer some sounds together. With the key sounds recorded, I'll now be showing all 3 scenes, breaking them down afterwards. This scene proved the most problematic for me, mainly due to the fact that I struggled to make my voice sound authentic enough, even after adding reverb. The scene just seemed to lack substance, and in the future I would layer it with even more noise, as it just seemed off slightly. The golf scene came out slightly better than the gunshot scene, but I still feel like there was something missing. The addition of my own voice and clapping didn't really work or fit with the piece, but I was happy with the striking sound of the golf shot. Taking the silliness out of the Corbin piece aside, I feel as though the Foley worked the best this time. It was the simplest to make, and therefore needed the only simplest of sound effects. I was especially content with the celery's impact of a broken bone. I feel that worked. On the whole, I'm content with my work. Even though the final scenes lacked elements of emotion and story, I feel like I've made strides in my own understanding of sound and the importance and the freedom of Foley. I definitely hope to explore it further.